Prior to getting my hands on a Hydrow, I had seen it referred to as the quote Peloton of Rowers so many times that I was expecting it to be, well, like the Peloton of Rowers. And I understand that analogy here in the sense that they are both instructor-led connected fitness programs, but after using Hydrow for over a month, I think it's a fairly inaccurate comparison. It's a comparison that frankly led me to underestimate what was unique about the Hydrow and what it had to offer. Its approach to its build quality, the class design, coaching styles, and scenic content are all very unique and in a class of its own. So in this Hydrow review, we are going to be digging into what makes this rower so special, as well as some of its drawbacks, because it definitely has its weak points as well. And my hope is by the end of the video, you have a complete picture so you can make the best decision to decide if it's a perfect fit for you. My name is Colin Jenkins with Connect the Watts, and if that sounds good to you, hit that like button and let's get started. So the first and possibly most important thing we need to discuss here is how the Hydrow rower feels and how it works. Because unlike most rowers, which use air resistance or water resistance, the Hydrow solely uses magnetic resistance. And creating a good magnetic resistance on a rower is really difficult to pull off because unlike, for example, cycling, in most cases, you don't really want to have to be adjusting your resistance while you row because the resistance on a rower should really be controlled by how hard you are rowing. And again, this is why air and water rowers are so popular because if you're trying to push a lot of air or water, the harder you push, the more resistance you are going to feel. But to create that same experience magnetically, that requires a lot of fancy tech work. And yet somehow Hydrow pulled it off and they really nailed it here. In fact, rowing on the Hydrow feels just as smooth and natural, maybe even more so than any other rower I have tried. Now, even though you shouldn't really be adjusting this magnetic resistance or drag during the middle of your workouts, it is adjustable so you can get the feeling out of the rower that you really prefer. Now, the big question you may need to consider is if you don't really want the magnetic resistance to be adjusting during your workouts, why even have it in the first place over an air or water rower? Well, it comes down to the fact that this rower is really designed for the home, and by having a magnetic resistance, the Hydrow rower is a lot more quiet than any of the other options. Now, additionally, when we talk about resistance, usually we're talking about the pull, but also important to consider is how hard the pull back is, meaning how much the rower actually pulls the handle in, and the Hydrow definitely has the strongest pullback of any rower I've used as well, and I feel this is really preferable as it makes the rower seem more snappy and responsive and encourages good form by getting those arms out in front of the return first. And we're gonna talk more about this design because this design is really at the heart of why I've been enjoying the Hydrow so much. And the handle that they include here is part of that, as it's a similar shape and size as the extremely popular Concept 2 rower, but instead of just being plastic, it has a light rubber wrap around it, which makes the grip feel really good and has allowed me to relax my hands a bit more, which is really good for rowing, even as I got sweaty. Also designed incredibly well here is this seat, and the seat just feels like it has the perfect amount of cushion to it to make it comfortable while still being functional, and the seat has a really nice rolling system to it, so it feels very smooth as well. Now the foot straps here are also very similar to the classic Concept 2 rower. I've never been a huge fan of these straps as I've used other ones that I feel are a bit better and more easily used, but these definitely don't negatively impact how rowing on the Hydrow feels. Now the Hydrow itself is a pretty heavy, well-built machine at 145 pounds, and it does support users' weights of up to 365 pounds. It's about 2 feet wide and 86 inches in length, so you definitely will need to consider how much room you have available to be able to fit the rower. Now it can definitely be stored upright, which will dramatically lower how much square feet you really need when the rower isn't in use, but when you have it upright, it's not going to be stable by itself, so you will need to buy an additional storage kit that needs to be installed into the wall, which is sold separately on the Hydrow website for around $80. Now the Hydrow rower has a very nice 22-inch HD touchscreen. Included here is also 2 decent sounding front-facing speakers, and the screen can be slightly adjusted up and down about 15 degrees to find the perfect angle for you, and can rotate to either side about 20 degrees to make the screen easier to see when you're taking classes like yoga and strength, which have you off the rower. The screen also has a button which allows it to fold forward to make it easier and more compact to store when upright. Now, of course, with any connected fitness device, we have to discuss their memberships, classes, and programs, because that can be just as important, if not more important, than the actual equipment itself. And so the Hydrow membership costs $38 per month, which is similar to most other connected fitness services. It allows for an unlimited amount of profiles to be made on the rower. Now, at the time of this review, when you buy a Hydrow rower, you also get a personal coaching session included. And this coaching session is going to be really beneficial, especially for those who haven't had a ton of experience rowing before, because unlike cycling, being able to become a good rower takes a lot of time and technique and coaching. And so having 30 minutes where you have a really good qualified coach to help teach you exactly what you need to do to improve is really valuable. Even for me, as somebody who is pretty decent on the rower and has been rowing for over 14 years, my instructor was still able to point out several flaws in my movement and gave me some drills and advice on how to make it better. Now, where Hydrow is similar to Peloton is in their class production, as they produce a lot of new daily content, including daily live classes. But instead of being filmed in a studio, all of their rowing classes are filmed right on the water, even the live ones. And I found the production of these classes to be absolutely phenomenal. It just feels better and more immersive to take all these classes out in these various locations all around the world. And most of the classes are kind of broken down into 3 categories, either what they call breathe, sweat, or drive, with breathe classes being more focused on building your aerobic or recovery system, sweat being a more tempo-driven workout, and drive usually being classes which require a really high intense effort or even possibly a race. Now, I've taken classes from the majority of the instructors here, and I'd have to say I also am very impressed, because these are all really good athletes who have spent a lot of time in the sport. And typically with really good athletes like this, they tend not to be the best coaches, but that is definitely not the case, as I could not even find one instructor on Hydrow that I did not think was good or that I did not like. Now, if you do want to make a comparison of Hydrow to Peloton, just know that on Peloton, one of their best instructors, who is my favorite, is Matt Wilpers, who kind of heads their Power Zone training program. And on Hydrow, I feel like all of the instructors here are at that same level, and I've never seen it be the case on any connected fitness service where all the coaches are equally this good. And there's not only just instructor-led rides, but they also have hundreds of just scenic rides with no instructor for those who just want to chill out and do their own thing while checking out the various locations. Now, when you're trying to browse and search through the classes, this is the one thing that I think could definitely be improved a lot, as even with the decent filtering system they have here, it was really hard for me to find the exact workouts that I wanted. I just wish they had more groups of collections or different types of guidance to help me more easily search through them. I remember last year when I was just checking out the app, I took this really awesome nighttime class with fireworks, and it took me a long time to be able to figure out which one that was. Now, as I mentioned, they also offer a few live classes each day, which I thought were really good, although my only complaint really has to do with the leaderboard here. Now, the leaderboard is fine. It allows you to see, where you are in the class, and you can filter by age or gender or your friends, so you can see just who you want to see on that leaderboard. But the only really issue I found is that it's no really way to interact with it. You can't high five anybody, you can't add somebody as a friend or do any of that. Now, you can do all of that on the class once the class is over, but I feel like it would be a better experience to be able to do that during the class. Hydrow also has these weekly races, which during each month they have a new race which you can repeat every single week. And I did a few of these and I really enjoyed it. Although I wish they would explain things a little bit more clearly, because when I look on the app, I see that there's actually a leaderboard for teams on these races, and I wish that was more clearly indicated on the Hydrow itself. Now, Hydrow also has a variety of strength, mobility, and yoga classes, and while these are a nice addition, they definitely really aren't the best of what Hydrow has to offer. It's not that they're bad, but there's just not a lot of variety here. Most are instructed by the same 1 or 2 instructors, and they really just seem more designed to complement the rower rather than being complete programs on their own. And speaking of programs, they don't really have too many programs here to offer. Like many connected fitness services, it's really more of a buffet style, choose your own workouts type of service, which, although I understand some of the reasons for, I generally do not like it. As for me, I really prefer to have that structured program where you have a goal at the end of it and you're doing each workout designed to get you there. So they don't really have that here, which is sort of a bummer. summer. The stat tracking that they have here as well is also not really the greatest, as you really can't see a lot of the metrics regarding how the class went that you would expect from a rowing service like this. And if you jump into a class and decided to leave it, there's no way to delete that class from your workout history. So these are kind of smaller things that I wish Hydrow would really improve on to make it an overall better experience. Also, unlike other connected fitness services, there's no real challenges here to keep you engaged and coming back. So I wish they would have that. Now, they do have badges you can earn, but you can't see them on the Hydrow itself. In order to see which ones you've earned or haven't earned yet, you have to pull out the app on your phone, which I'm not a huge fan of. Not that the app is bad. In fact, it's really great that you can take some of these classes if you need to travel or go somewhere else. I just feel like there's a lot of things on this app that really should also be on the Hydrow. But overall, the Hydrow Rower itself is just fantastic. It's easily one of, if not the most enjoyable rowing experience I've had so far. It feels great to use. The classes and instructors here are really incredible, so big props to them. Of course, I would love to see the improvements regarding browsing through the classes and some of the UI things and the leaderboard, maybe have some challenges or some more full complete programs to follow along to. But overall, the Hydrow is definitely worth recommending. I won't recommend it to everybody because if you want a complete fitness package with a variety of additional strength and yoga programs, that's not going to be this here. It's really designed for somebody who wants to make rowing their primary exercise. But let me know your thoughts on Hydrow, what you think about it. If you've used it, share with us your experience with it so far. And if you want more content just like this, well, make sure to subscribe to the channel. Really appreciate it, and I'll see you next time.